Hey guys, my name's Nakara, but I'll also be addressing myself as Nick or as Kara in the future. And this is Grayscale. Grayscale is a podcast that I'm starting where I kind of just want to talk about whatever I feel like talking about for the day. That's a really vague category, I guess, to kind of put it into in terms of how to describe what this podcast is going to be like. But that's the best I can give you at this point. It really is just going to be about whatever I feel like uploading. And sometimes it'll be sort of philosophical, or sometimes it'll be a rant, or maybe I just feel like venting to you guys. I don't know. I've been wanting to start a podcast for over a year now. The idea kind of fell off for a little bit because I didn't really know how I'd make a podcast. I like the idea of it, but I didn't really know how I'd pull it off. So I kind of just shelved the idea for a while, and I didn't really know what the main idea would be behind the podcast. I thought of like a self-help kind of thing where I talk about my struggles and things I've been going through that maybe people out there could relate to, that could be helpful for somebody. And I kind of just landed on this. And I decided to just finally go for it and stop wasting any more time on something that I really wanted to do. I just really wanted to come online and share my voice and share my thoughts because I find it kind of difficult to be able to do that. I don't know. It's hard for me to strike up a conversation with anybody about a lot of the stuff that I'm thinking. A lot of the time I feel like all of the thoughts I'm having are just crazy and nonsensical, and I feel like voicing it is just going to make me sound like a fucking nut job. And people aren't really going to get me, and they're going to look at me weird, and ultimately that's going to affect their perception of me. So I kind of just bury everything somewhere in a box inside my head and kind of just live with it that way. But I don't know. I think maybe it's been a little too long of that being the go-to coping mechanism for me. And I think it's about time I just fucking said whatever I wanted to say, and that really is the point of this podcast. That's really the whole point of Grayscale, because I just want to be able to talk about whatever it is I want to talk about after bottling things up for a while, and really having or feeling like I'm the only person I can talk to or share my own thoughts with, because the thoughts are going on in my own head. It feels lonely a lot, and it keeps me in my own little bubble, which is, I'm safe in my shell kind of thing. And it's kind of hard. It's hard to break out of it. It's hard to burst the bubble and just be myself sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I could have just found a friend to throw all my ideas onto or share my thoughts with instead of making a whole fucking podcast. Or honestly, I could have fucking decided to go back to therapy, but there are a million and one reasons to not do something. And I wanted to start a podcast, so we're starting a podcast. And that's in no way to just kind of excuse maybe this half-assed idea, but I've always been the type to try to find any and every reason to justify what I'm going to do or what I'm not going to do. And I feel like if there's enough reasons, I talk myself out of something just because I feel like it's, not a good idea, or it's, it's going to be embarrassing, or, whatever fucking outcome that there could be. But I don't really want to think like that anymore. I want to try to not be that kind of person anymore. So I'm hoping that this can really, really help me. But yeah, on to the name of the podcast. I feel like my whole life, I've always felt like I was in this really gray area. I do a lot of black and white thinking, like all or nothing type of thing. But I never felt like my life was black and white. I always felt like everything was just in between. There was never a specific wrong or right or a good or a bad, not one extreme or the other. It always felt like it was somewhere in the middle, so ambiguous, so muddled that I couldn't really pinpoint what it was about. And I don't know, I felt like it was really fitting to be able to just name this podcast Grayscale, because that's kind of the way I view my whole life, or I have up until this point. Everything through the lens of my life has just been kind of gray, Everything is and it isn't, and it makes sense and it doesn't make sense. And I don't know. The in-between is all I've ever really known of anything. And if I'm going to be personal on the internet, I think the best way to help describe it would be that everything is a grayscale for me. On the sadder end of things, if you take like the emotional connotation that can be associated with the color gray, is that, things usually seem kind of dull or sad or lifeless. And mental health has been a really big struggle for me my whole life. Struggled with a variety of things, depression, anxiety, very notably. And it's been a challenge. It's been hard to really feel kind of gray most days. But like I said, this podcast is all encompassing. So really, it's about everything to me. Everything is in the in-between for me. My mental health, my life, the way I perceive things and experience things, what I'm going to talk about, it's the whole general idea that everything falls into the gray area and that we talk about whatever's on the grayscale. Like I said, it's whatever comes to mind for me for the day, whatever I feel like uploading. Maybe it might just be more than like a topic to talk about or like a rant session or something. Maybe I'll fucking spew some poetry one day or something. I don't know. I just want to be able to share parts of me and become more comfortable with doing that. And maybe starting a podcast again isn't the greatest idea, or bearing my whole soul on the internet isn't a great idea, but I don't know. I want to be able to try something new. So if anyone listening can relate to anything I've said, or maybe it kind of sparks a new kind of thought or a new kind of perspective, that'd be kind of cool. I don't know. I just kind of hope it clicks for someone too, and that me expressing myself can somehow help someone out there as well. A big insecurity I kind of had about this podcast, which is why I put it off for a year and more, is that I was just afraid that I'd come on here and I'd sound like a fucking idiot, that I'd just choose this medium of trying to practice more of my self-expression and people wouldn't really get me, that they'd kind of think I was just talking about bullshit, that I'd be just saying nonsense, and that people would think I'm weird or stupid or crazy. But if anyone manages to listen, I hope they can understand that it's just me. I'm just a regular person like anybody else. And I just want some place in the world to be my own. I want my voice to be out there and it to mean something, even if it only means something to me. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. I sounded like I was crying or on the verge of tears this whole introduction, but that's okay. I hope it wasn't too painful. And if this introductory episode was not the biggest bore of your life and you're intrigued about where this podcast could go, or you like the sound of my voice, please feel free to stick around. Maybe it will be worth your while. For the beginning of this adventure, I'm going to focus on putting out episodes on Wednesdays and Fridays, but I'm going to be alternating between the two. So my first episode will go up either on a Wednesday or a Friday of that week, and then it will switch and go to the other day. So like if I post on a Wednesday for my first episode, then I'll be posting my second episode on Friday the next week. I know it's a bit weird, a bit different, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea, and I just want to see how it goes for a little bit. Just so I don't have to feel like I'm pressuring myself to be in the podcast business, and I can just fit into my own kind of timeline that makes me feel comfortable while also doing something that makes me feel not so comfortable. But yeah, this is a journey of the self where I try to build up my confidence and try to practice being vulnerable with other people, which is really, really hard to do. And I just want to try. And I really want to be able to be myself somewhere in this world. And I feel like this podcast could really help me do just that. So come along if you want to see me be my real, authentic self. And if maybe I can help you guys do that too. Final thoughts. I'm working on building a website. I started a few social media accounts. I have a Twitter. I'm at grayscale on TWT. I have a TikTok and Instagram. Both have the same handle. It's at grayscale.podcast. I really just started those social media accounts because I wanted to be able to talk to any listeners that I'm able to garner. I know I said this podcast is about practicing my vulnerability and being able to talk to people and feeling like I can have a space to be myself and say what I want to say. But I really do want to be able to connect to anybody who is able to connect to me and to Grayscale. So if you guys have questions or comments about whatever we end up talking about in these episodes, I would really love for you guys to, DM me on TikTok, Instagram, you can tweet at me. Is that how Twitter works? I know I'm Gen Z, but I don't use Twitter enough to know if that's the terminology, but you guys can ask me questions, leave comments, stuff like that. And you guys can recommend cool stuff that you think relates to stuff I've talked about in an episode, or you can, recommend books, articles, music, movies, anything you guys think really pertains to the world of Grayscale and whatever we talk about on here. Or just things you guys like and you would want me to check out. Really, whatever you guys feel comfortable sharing with me, I would love to take a look at. But yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool to interact and communicate like that. So please feel free to find me again on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Yeah, I would love for you guys to talk to me on there. Okay, I think I've done enough rambling for today and I feel really jittery and stuff, so I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for listening if you came this far. I really appreciate it and I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Bye.